What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. Today it's free hit time for Gameweek 38 plus. Obviously I don't do free hit draft kind of videos every single week, but there's a lot of people using the chip this week, a lot of questions, a lot of dilemmas and that kind of thing. So in this one I've split it into more of like a guide, 3-piece type thing rather than just having a draft. So first up, we got key questions. I put up a tweet yesterday asking for your key questions and dilemmas that you're basically having for those of you on free hit. So you're going to go through that. Then top 5 players, what I would consider the top 5 players if we assume that everyone starts and you've also got a lot of money to spend on your free hit draft. And then lastly, I will go for a draft that I knocked up together. I don't have my free hit, but obviously that hasn't stopped me thinking about it, especially seeing how many people are using it this week. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So we'll start off with your key dilemmas. Now, these aren't the only ones that came up, but these are the ones that came up kind of more than once, which is why I've included these 6. I will just quickly say as well, there is some building work going on next door on the roof, and it's quite loud at times. The drilling seems to have stopped, but there's still some hammering with a hammer, so hopefully the mic won't pick it up too badly. But if you can hear that in the background, I do apologise. I don't think it's going to be done anytime soon, or maybe not even this week. So I've just got to get on with the recordings and hope it's not too bad. With that out of the way, let's get on to your dilemmas / questions. So Kane versus Aubameyang is a big one, not helped by the fact that Aubameyang went and scored 2 versus Man City, Kane went and scored 2 versus Leicester. Suddenly people want them. I've seen some drafts with both. I don't think that's a bad idea at all. And I'm not going to sit on the fence, but I will say this. I don't think there's a huge amount in it between the two of them. Aubameyang's at home. Kane's away, but it's the Crystal Palace who they've only kept 1 clean sheet since restart, basically. He's in some pretty good form. His stats are pretty good too. Now, with Aubameyang, it's hard to compare underlying stats because his kind of shots in the box and the total amount of shots he has is usually quite low anyway. And he's still, we've seen it all season. He still puts away the goals. The only slight worry, it's not really a worry, but something to think about with Aubameyang. He's about to play Watford at home, and Watford are going to switch their manager. I don't know who's going to come in and manage them for the last 2 games, but we do sometimes see some new manager bounce. Now, it is Man City and then Arsenal, so that is extremely tough, and I'm not expecting Aubameyang to blank in this one, but it's something worth considering. Also, we'll have to see what Arteta says about players playing and then having to play the FA Cup final 6 days later. It's plenty of rest, you would think, and if Aubameyang is going to get a rest, you'd imagine it'll be in Game Week 37 plus. Obviously, this is being recorded before all of the matches have been finished, but that's something to bear in mind as well, just in case Arteta says something along those lines. Whereas with Kane, you know that's not going to happen. He's not going to get rested. It's going to be penalties. It's going to be 80 to 90 minutes, you would say. And then get the job done. My preference, if you have to pick one right now, is Kane. There's no worries about him not starting. Like I said, on penalties, even though Aubameyang would be 2, and playing a pretty good side in the last game, Crystal Palace. Now, some of Kane's goals have been on the counter-attack. Will that happen against Crystal Palace? Maybe not, but I don't think they're going to be completely defensive in that game. And we've already seen only 1 clean sheet since restart. It's not very good. It's not the same Crystal Palace team that has been defensively sound in the past, and they have a bunch of injuries as well. So my personal preference is Kane, but I don't think there's much in it. Man United, what to do? So originally I think, obviously, and tinkering is going to change as the week goes on. Free hitters are going to adapt their teams as they see more and more matches from Game Week 37. With Man United, I think a lot of people are only going for 1 attacker, and then they saw Leicester lose 3-0 to Spurs, and suddenly now people are talking about maybe going for 2. I don't think there's enough reason to go for 3. I don't think it's easy enough to fit them in, so I probably wouldn't do that. Would I go completely without Man United? I think you could. I think you shouldn't do that expecting Man United to blank. I think that would be a pretty good game against Leicester. Depending on, it could be tight because of Champions League places and stuff like that, but I don't think that's how Man United are going to set up to play. So I still think it's a good match for them, especially given Leicester's also got quite a few injuries, and obviously they've not been doing too well, or at least in the last game against Spurs. Spurs were able to take them apart on the counter-attack, and Man United, no reason they can't do the same. Now, would I go for a Man United defender? Absolutely not. There are better options this week. Attackers, though, I think 1 or 2 is still justifiable and viable. Whether or not you go Martial and Fernandes, I've seen a lot of people going for Martial. Nothing wrong with that, but I don't think you should write off Fernandes this early. I know he's looked tired, but he's definitely going to play. So for me, I think I would probably still have 1 attacker, not because I'd want coverage, just because I still think they're very good options and very well priced. I think you can probably get away without going for 2, though. That's what I'd say. Which 3 Man City? I mean, I'd almost answer this question with whichever 3 do not start or have the least amount of minutes against Watford. If we assume that they all start, and obviously that's not going to happen, there's not enough places, My three, I think, are preferred are Sterling, Jesus, and Mahrez. I just feel from open play, that's the goal scorers for you. De Bruyne can score from open play, but he doesn't get into the box that often. He has penalties, though. David Silva, very similar. So for me, the three I would prefer, Jesus, Sterling, Mahrez, and I would not be wasting a City slot on a defender, not this week. So that's the three I would pick. But to be honest, the Watford game is going to play a big part in who we go for. If Sterling or Mahrez plays 90 and De Bruyne and the other, the non-starter from Sterling or Mahrez gets a complete rest, then it's a completely different conversation. So we'll have to wait and see. Double ups. People worried about doubling up or even tripling up on defence. I don't really see a problem with it. If the defence has got that good a fixture, no issues with doubling up. I've seen people free hit this week with double or triple Wolves, clean sheet. Double or triple Burnley, clean sheet. If you think that team has got a really good chance of getting a clean sheet, why not double up? Triple up, I can see why people get a bit wary about it. It's putting all your eggs into one basket, essentially. But for me, I wouldn't be worried about that. I think Burnley got a really good fixture this week. If you want to double or triple up, no reason not to. Of course, if you're watching that game, it can be a bit of a hard watch as an FPL manager when you've got double or triple defence. But you've got to try and put that to your back of your mind. If one defender's got a good chance of a clean sheet, then two do as well because they play for the same team. So as you'll see with my draft, I think it's a good option. Not enough changes. The amount of times I've seen this, I've said this before when people have been playing free hit in earlier game weeks, right? There's no double game weeks, there's no blank game weeks. You've got to use it in a single game week now. We've known that since lockdown, apart from the first game week, of course, but there was no need for a lot of people to use their free hit then. I wouldn't worry about how many changes you make. If you only need to make 2 or 3 changes to your team and you're happy with that, then that's still worth using the free hit. I mean, when else are you going to use it now? This is the final game week. I have seen someone say they're not that they're necessarily happy with their team, but they're so worried about the changes going wrong, they might just not use the free hit, which just seems crazy to me. I don't know if that was a serious tweet, but that's one I did see. So for me, you look at your team, how many players do you want to get in, and just do those changes. I mean, that sounds so stupid and simple, I know, but that's all there is to it. You shouldn't overthink this. My team right now, I've not got a free hit. I'm pretty happy with it. But if I had a free hit, I would absolutely make kind of my defence. I'd probably go double or triple ups. I'd put that money into the attack. I'd probably swap a few attackers around, especially if Man City, play like a first 11 somehow against Watford. Then I'd make a few changes. But would I make a full 11 changes? Probably not. So don't worry about the number of changes you make. This is the last week to use it. Do not overthink this chip. It's ridiculous to be doing that. And Liverpool defenders, we're going to talk about Liverpool attackers in a sec, but Liverpool defenders, are they viable? I think yes. Now, Burnley is going to be very popular this week because they're playing Brighton at home and they offer really good value. But if you've got the money to stretch, I still think that Robertson and Trent are really good options this week. That Newcastle side is looking poor from a defensive point of view, poor from an attacking point of view right now. Liverpool are going to be hungry again. I still think even though the 100 points is not on, I still think that, the record's not on, but I still think they're going to go for it. It's going to be pretty much a first 11. It's golden boots and stuff to go for. I know Salah's a long way off that now, but depending on how many goals against Chelsea, he probably would fancy his chances. And the defenders are obviously there from a creative sense as well. So for me, there's enough upside in Robertson and Trent to still go for one, or maybe even both this week, to be honest. It's such a good fixture, even though it's away. Absolutely, Liverpool defenders are viable. So here are my top 5 players. I know I've kind of gone for the pictures with the chest, the neck and the head, and so you might get a little bit confused because I'm also kind of chest, neck and head, but I am not one of the top 5 players. I'm a kind of 6th edition, probably not worth putting me in on a free hit. And look, I'm not as fit as those guys, as you can tell, but just by looking at the pictures. So the top 5 players have got the black square around them. I just wanted to differentiate in case you got confused that I was one of them. Let's talk about them. For me, Man City, of course, I'm going to triple up if I'm free hitting, or even if I'm not, to be honest. But I think 2 of the key players there for me, Sterling and Jesus, if I was free hitting. And again, all the caveats about they may not start, we'll have to wait and see Watford, etc. But let's assume everyone starts. They're the 2 key men for me. For one big reason is I think they're going to be the main goal scorers in the team. Can Mahrez get goals? Absolutely. Is he going to score as many as Sterling? He can, absolutely. But I would put my money on Sterling right now. The form he's in, how hungry he is for goals. And Jesus is the same. Jesus racks up such good underlying stats. Doesn't always have the best finishing, I know, but he gets into really good positions. And obviously, Man City are creating so many chances. He's always going to be, or have a chance to be on the end of one, basically. So Jesus and Sterling, absolutely for me. I still can't look past, right now, getting Salah or Mane. It doesn't have to be Salah. If you've got Mane, if you want to go for Mane instead, that's absolutely fine. But that Newcastle defence has been so bad. I know they kept a clean sheet last night, but that was Brighton. It's a little bit of a different dilemma for them than playing against Liverpool. And I just think Liverpool are going to go for it on the last day. Now, they've got quite a bit of rest. It's like 7 days till the Chelsea game. They're like 4 or 5 days, I think, till their final Gameweek 38 game. So they've got enough rest to play their first kind of choice 11 if they want to. Now, Klopp has said they don't just give away playing time in the Premier League. You've got to be able to earn it. It's got to be the right decision. And we saw against Arsenal, they put out a pretty strong squad. I'm expecting the same against Chelsea and the same against Newcastle as well. It might not happen, but that's what I'm thinking right now. And given how good Liverpool can be, and I know they've not been the same since they won the league, but that Newcastle game is there for the taking. Salah should have scored more points in the last 2. Mane could have scored more points in the last 2. In terms of big chances, Salah's on 8. I think only Antonio with 10 and Kane with 9, and Kane's played an extra game now, are ahead of him. Mane's not far behind with 6. So for me, on a free hit, and obviously it all depends who you're going to captain as well, but I think they're viable captain options. And if you've got the money, putting one of those two is decent. And then other top 5 players. Obviously, top 5 players don't have to be your top scorers necessarily. They can be enablers. For me, Martinez against Watford at home, that's too good value to look past. I know Pope is obviously going to be a key player, and a lot of people will have him in their normal teams. That's absolutely fine. But when you're free hitting, I think if you can take out money in certain positions, then goalkeeper has got to be one of them. Martinez is what, like 4.4 million? Pope's over 5 million. Considering you can get 3 Burnley defenders for under 4.5 million, then for me it's got to be Martinez all the way. And that obviously then leaves Kevin Long, centre-back extraordinaire. I think he's 4.3 million. Basically, what I'm saying is you have to have a Burnley defender. In my opinion, the fixture's too good, the value is too good. Whether it's Bardsley, Peters or Long, whoever it might be, you got to go for one of them. So that's my top 5 players. Martinez, great value. Kevin Long or any other Burnley defender that's not Tarkowski, great value. And then your big hitters, Sterling, Jesus and Salah. Of course, there's other players you could go for. Aubameyang, Kane, Mahrez, De Bruyne. We're going to talk about all them in a second. But for me, I think they're probably a pretty good top 5. But if not, let me know in the comments below who your top 5 are, and let's take a look at the draft. So this is the free hit draft. Let's get all the caveats out the way now. 1, if I was on free hit, absolutely I'd be tinkering right up to game week 38. Would this change? It might do. There's still some games to go in game week 37 plus. 2, I've put 3 fingers up there. You don't need to copy this. This is not the saying this is the best team. You should copy this. This should be your free hit team. You can have your own opinions. That's absolutely fine. You might agree with some of these players. You might disagree with some of these players. Absolutely fine. But just listen to what I say about them and then maybe decide whether you do or don't want them. And the last thing is team value. I've had this discussion before. My team value is going to be lower than some people. It's going to be higher than some people. There's no point in me doing this from a fresh £100 million team because not many people only have 100 million at this time. So I think my squad value is like 104.1 or something like that. So yours might be lower, it might be more. You can make downgrades or upgrades as you want. So going on from what I said before, I've obviously had to put the key players in. It'd be stupid of me to put top 5 players and then not put them in the draft. So Martinez is in goal. I just think I like Pope. Of course I do. Why would I not like Nick Pope? Apart from what he's done to my team by not owning him. But anyway, Martinez, 4.4 million. Great value. And the fact that you can get outfield players for less money, that just works for me. It means you can spend money elsewhere. Now, whether you go Long, Peters or Bardsley, it doesn't really matter. The only thing I would say about Peters, and I know obviously he's been playing well and he's played like the last 5 or 6 games, but the reason he was playing is because Taylor was playing left back and Peters was playing further forward, but Goodmanson's back now, so they don't really need Peters to play in a more advanced position. At least I don't think they do. So he's then gone back to left back in the last game, which is fine. He performed well, although it was against Norwich. But if Taylor is back from injury, there is a chance he could drop out. I'm not saying he will, but there is a chance. Like, let's remember that Charlie Taylor was the first choice left back and played loads of 90-minute games before he got injured. So we'll have to wait and see what Dyche says. But to be honest, I'd hope to get team news. And if Peters isn't playing, it's an easy switch to Bardsley. If you've got 2, Long, Peters, Bardsley, just pick 2 of them. It doesn't hugely matter which ones you go for. Those of you that have been playing FPL for a long time, you'll remember that Kevin Long was an option one season, at least at the start of the season. And he did score and get a 15-pointer. So a little bit of nostalgia there from me. Obviously as well, just to say, I've put in the cheapest players in each bracket. I think it's very unlikely you're going to pick 11 and one of them to get rested this week and not see any minutes. So Randolph or whoever, 3.9 million goalkeeper. Brandon Williams, if you're not going triple United, then he's an absolute must pretty much because he gives you so much extra value. He's the only £3.8 million player, let alone defender. Tanganga, again, any 3.9 million defender. And then I've gone 3-5-2. So I've got Connolly, who's the cheapest forward as well, who may see minutes as well, so might as well have him in. So that's the three cheapest I've gone for. I've put Trent Alexander-Arnold in there. Since restart, to be fair, I don't think he's got a single assist since restart. I could be wrong on that, but I think that's true. Robertson's been maybe looking a little bit sharper, not in the earlier games, but in the last kind of 3 or 4 maybe. But I don't think there's a lot in it. Surely Trent is not going to go the rest of the season without getting another assist or another attacking return. So he's my Liverpool player of choice, but I don't think a downgrade to Robertson or even a downgrade to Van Dijk is that bad if you need to put money elsewhere. But otherwise, I'm really happy with that defence. Good chance of a clean sheet for Arsenal. I think defensively they've been good. Martinez has also been very good in goal. And Burnley defence is what they do. They get clean sheets. It is worth mentioning, if Burnley get a clean sheet with Nick Pope in goal, that will be his 16th of the season. And that will be enough to get the Golden Glove. Now, they have, to be fair, the players have commented that they really want to get that for him. I think that's obvious. It's not like they're going to go into that game and try and not keep a clean sheet. So I don't think it's going to have that big an impact. Certainly not as big of an impact as maybe a golden boot where a player will shoot on sight. I don't know if there's really too much a defender can do extra in a game to not concede. But there you go. It's worth mentioning anyway. Now in midfield, or let's talk about the three Man City. I've gone for the three I said. Jesus, Sterling or Mahrez. Let's talk about the ones I haven't gone for. So Foden for me, I think there's other ways to get value in this team. If he plays against Watford, there's no guarantee he starts against Norwich. I think there is a pretty good chance that he probably starts against Watford or gets considerable minutes. So Foden's not really an option for me. There's all this talk about David Silva being his last game, or at least his last game in the league. There's still Champions League potentially to come. There's still apparently an offer of a 12-month extension as well. But either way, I think David Silva's got a good chance of playing against Norwich. And I don't think he's a bad option. Again, if you want to put money elsewhere in your team, you want to downgrade one of the two Man City mids that I've put in, then David Silva's a good option. But for me, I much prefer Mahrez, and of course, I much prefer Sterling as well. Now, Kevin De Bruyne is not in the team, and there's nothing to say he won't do well. He's in my normal team, and I might even go into Gameweek 38 with him. But I just think if we're looking for goals, Mahrez and Sterling may be slightly better chance further forward. And if David Silva does play, there is a high chance that Kevin De Bruyne will play in a little bit of a deeper role. Not saying he doesn't get forward, not saying he can't get attacking returns, absolutely not. In fact, he'll probably create a hell of a lot of chances. But for me, I just prefer Mahrez and Sterling personally. But that's because I'm getting to pick on a free hit. I've got Kevin De Bruyne in my team, and I'm not really worried about owning him at all, even though I might look to ship him. Antonio's in there because this is just the way I've set up. I don't really have much more money to spend in that slot. So I don't know if there's many better options around that price. Like Pulisic isn't much more expensive. You could go for him against Wolves. But if West Ham and David Moyes want to finish strongly, then who better to get than the player who's been in great form since restart? Like I keep saying, statistically, the best player, his expected goal involvement is pretty insane, to be honest, for a West Ham player, even if you take out the Norwich game. And it's against Aston Villa at home. Now, will Villa have anything to play for at that point? Not sure. We'll have to see how the results or the rest of the results go. But it's not looking good for them. So West Ham could be up for that. And, you know, make it a proper game, given that Aston Villa might have something to go for. And Antonio playing up front, nothing really to dislike about him. And I may even bring him back for my own team. So he's in there for money issues. I mean, if you've got more money to spend, then you could go up in price. You could go for a Son, for example. But I think Antonio, for that price, is real good value. And I've got Martial in there. I can actually afford Fernandes. I don't think there's much in them at the moment. Like, underlying stats-wise are pretty similar. Rashford's even slightly further ahead than both of them, but not by much. So I would see how they both look against West Ham and then go from there. But the thing with Bruno is, and I've seen a lot of people do this, put Martial in instead, he could be on penalties, he takes free kicks, he takes corners, he assists from open play, he gets into the box. He has so many avenues to get points. I actually probably, by Gameweek 38, would maybe even look to switch from Martial to Fernandes if you're not having both. But I don't think there's much in it. In terms of points scored before the West Ham game, they've scored an equal amount of points since restart. And yeah, Martial has looked good and hungry in the last few games. So if you need a little bit, if you need to eke out a bit more money, then I do like Martial potentially instead of Fernandes, but not a huge amount in them. And the same for Salah. For me, maybe Salah or Mane in this team if you're not going to captain them. maybe they're worth a little bit less to you, but I really think that Newcastle game could be heavy scoring. Newcastle, one of the worst defences since restart, and they haven't been great this year. They have kept quite a few clean sheets at home, but away from home especially, and since restart, whether it's home or away, they have not looked good at all. And they've got so many injuries, which is not helping them as well. So I really think that could be a big score. So I like having Salah or Mane in this, so that's why I've gone for them. And up front, of course, Jesus, the guy I've already spoken about. He's in my team. He would definitely be in my free hit team. Unless he goes and plays 90 minutes against Watford. And then maybe it's a little bit of a worry whether he starts against Norwich. He would be in my team. And then I've got Danny Ings in. Now, I have made another draft where I had Kane in instead of Ings. And I couldn't have Trent Alexander-Arnold, for example. So I had to cut a bit of money elsewhere. But I just think Danny Ings, he's looked so sharp. He did take a penalty, although he missed it. I wonder if he would take another one if they could win it. But I think Sheffield United at home, it's a tough one because Sheffield United have defended quite well since restart, especially since having all of their players back fit. Obviously, they did really well against Chelsea, beating them, but then they lost to Leicester in a game where I wouldn't have expected them to concede as many as they did. I thought they'd look a bit tighter, so I'm not sure about that game for Danny Ings. But he has been so clinical, such good form. Still got an outside potential of getting the golden boot. Might even take another penalty, although that may be a good or a bad thing depending on how you look at it. I still like Ings. I think for that kind of price, he's where I'd look. Again, if you need to save a bit of money, you've got Greenwood at Man United should play. You've got Wood at Burnley as well, who might play, or definitely will play. And they would save you a bit of money. So that's where you could take a little bit of money out there. And I think going for Harry Kane, like if I had the money for it in this draft, I would certainly look at going for him against Crystal Palace. Maybe even ahead of Ings, but obviously it is a big difference in price. It's nearly, it's what, like 3.5 million difference in price. So it's pretty huge. Otherwise, I quite like this team. Like I've already said, you can have Mane instead of Salah. You can have Fernandes instead of Martial. If you've got a bit more money, you could upgrade Antonio. There's loads of things you can do. Like for my team, Bradley, this team, I actually have 1 million left. So I could go for Kane instead of Jesus maybe, but I prefer Jesus to be honest. And then you could maybe go for a Man City mid instead of Antonio if you got a bit more money. But there's plenty to play with. I think for sure Martinez will be in goal. I think double or triple up on Burnley defence looks great. And absolutely pile that money into attack. There's usually quite a few goals on the last day of the season. So Man City against Norwich, Man United in good form against a Leicester team that just lost 3-0, Liverpool against a poor and injury-ravaged Newcastle team. They all look good for points. So this, I think, is the kind of draft that I would go for. So that is it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give it a like. If you're on free hit, leave me a comment below. Let me know how different your drafts are versus the one that I put up. Like I said, there is loads of different ways you can play this. There are loads of good options as well, which is actually really nice because sometimes there's a template that forms, and there will be a bit of that before Gameweek 38 plus. We'll see a bit of a template on YouTube and Twitter. You know, double Burnley defence, Martinez in goal, you know, 3 City, maybe 1 Liverpool, 1 United, whatever it might be. But the actual players picked could be quite varied, which I quite like. So it'll be interesting to see your teams. If you are new around here, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, so you know when all the other videos are going live. Stream tomorrow, like I said, team selection on Thursday for my team with no free hit. Friday will be the game week preview, so by then we'll have seen all the matches. So there might even be more questions there, so I'll talk through them on that one on Friday. And a deadline stream on Sunday. So plenty more content. Make sure you subscribe. I don't think the banging and the drilling was that bad. I did hear a bit of hammering as I was talking, but if I stopped every time they hammered, I would never get this video out. So hopefully it wasn't too bad. I apologise if it was. Otherwise, I will catch you tomorrow for the knee-jerk stream once the second game is finished. So it'll be around 10 o'clock, another late one, but it'll be the last late knee-jerk stream of the season. So I'm looking forward to it. Hope to see you there. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers all.